you so much for joining me today.
Hello.
You're in sunny Spain, so I'm really glad that we've managed to get you on a Zoom to share your story. For anybody that hasn't come across you, can you just give a brief sort of introduction to you and a general basis of what's gone on, and then we'll dive into more detail.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm Helen. I've got 4 children, and they are 13, 11, 8, and 6. And it's quite complicated. So at the minute, I can't see any of my children. But it's been 4 years of going through family courts, and it's how we've got to this, really. The father was very abusive to myself with coercive control. There were illegal weapons and illegal bullets that he had. He also shot my house and my neighbour's house, and he threatened the children with the guns. But there was physical abuse to the children, mental abuse. There's lots of corruption, like he knew social workers that were brought in on the case, and it's just been a knock-on effect of what's happened to get to where we are.
Okay.
He's a very clever, manipulative person who knew what he was doing, really.
Well, let's go back to how you met him then. How and where did you meet him? How did your relationship begin?
Well, actually, I met his brother first.
Okay.
So his brother was in my town playing cricket, and he was an overseas Zimbabwean player, and he actually went back to Zimbabwe to play world-class cricket. So he played in the World Cup. But my ex argued with his brother that you couldn't message England from Zimbabwe.
Okay.
So, and he only pursued me, I think, to annoy his brother.
Okay.
So from the start, it was a competitive factor. And it caused a bit of a rift with the family, to be honest. And his mum and his brother didn't speak to him for years, and he enjoyed that conflict. At the time, I just think, oh, this is cute, he's kind of protecting me.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really realise.
And how long ago was that you'd met him?
That was 2002.
Okay. And you had your first child in
2008.
2008. And when did the coercive control and the abuse begin with you? Was that something that...
I think looking back, yeah, it was from the start, but I think
Right.
you don't really realise it until
It's a hindsight
the law
thing.
probably came in 2015, and I started to realise it. I was like, oh, this is kind of what's going on. He restricted my friends, he restricted my family. He worked nights as well, so especially when I had the children, he was there all the daytime, and he wanted to know where I was all the time. And then at night, then I was stuck at home, so I couldn't go out. I was kind of housebound. And I worked from home. I had a laser machine company, which I engraved things, and he used to break the machine. So when he wasn't speaking to me, I would go through periods of being, it would be 10 days and he wouldn't be speaking to me or something. He would then break my machine, so I'd have to ask him to fix it because he was the only one who could fix it. So it's things like that he would do.
Right.
Slowly. And the gun control as well, like he didn't have guns to begin with.
Okay.
Then after an argument, like he'd shoot my garage, or would shoot my car, or he'd leave dead animals around the house. Or he would do the same with the children, like he'd threaten to kill the children if they spoke up about what was happening.
Okay, so
There's a lot of,
you had four children with this man, and how old were your children when this really started to come to a head?
I remember my eldest, she was whipped with about the age of 3 at a barbecue. And I remember him saying to him, this can't happen again. And slowly he would then do things differently. So we'd do things so you couldn't see it.
Okay.
Or do things differently. And that was the first thing I really remember with the children. But then my son, he was 1, I think, when this happened. Yeah, he's got severe autism. He's in a special needs school.
Oh.
So he couldn't speak.
Okay.
So my eldest one has always been his voice. So he used to hit him hard on the top of his head a lot. And she would always be the one that stuck up for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it a few times. My mum witnessed it as well, and my dad. Other people witnessed it. But then he'd say, oh, I won't do it again. It wasn't that hard, or...
Yeah,
and then he would do it behind the scenes. So you'd hear it, and then he'd say, no, you've heard it wrong.
Okay, gaslighting.
Yeah.
Okay. So What was the point where you decided that you needed to be away from him?
It was when I was pregnant with my fourth. I mean, over the years, I knew, and he had threats. He said, if you ever leave me, if you ever do anything, I'll take the children to Zimbabwe and you'll be shot. A white girl, English girl in Zimbabwe has no value over there. I'll just have to pay someone, even I'd just give them a pair of shoes and they'd shoot you. So I had a lot of threats. If I did speak up about it, this is what would happen.
Okay.
So, and he said, well, I'll take the kids, you'll never see them again. So for years, I was kind of in a very tricky situation. And because I knew the abuse was going on, I was scared because I was kind of culpable as well for it happening. Then I was feared of my own life.
Right. So it's a very difficult situation for you to be in, because he's literally threatening your life. So you're like, well, if something happens to me, he has my children and they don't have their mother. Wow. Okay, so how did it end up getting to the family court?
Well, I think, when I was pregnant with the fourth child, actually, I went to my midwife and said, look, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. He's got these guns. He's being very erratic. I don't know what's going on, but I'm frightened. I don't know who to turn to. So she reported me. She reported it to social services, actually. Mm-hmm. And we had some good workers, to be honest, 2 really good workers. But then he said to me, if you don't tell them it's just your pregnancy hormones, I will lie and I'll say that you've done this and I'll get the children taken off as both. So if I can't see them, I'll make sure you can't see them as well.
Right.
So he coerced me to change that report. And all I said in the report, I wrote to say, look, I hope he can get better and get the help. So they signed us off.
Okay.
So I was scared. He said, I'll get the help, I'll get better, I won't do these things, I'll learn from it.
Okay. And he didn't.
So then, eventually after another year after that, he'd got worse with what he was doing. So I reported him to the police. I reported the guns and the child abuse and the historical rape. And they come around, 6 police came actually and took him away. They bailed him away from the house.
Okay. And I'd seen on your social media that he continued to antagonize you and intimidate you by driving past your house and doing things to quite obviously get in your face. So was
the
he,
children as well.
So was he told that he had to stay away from you and the children?
For 2 months we had bail conditions, and he did break the bail conditions a couple of times by messaging. And even social services allowed him to break the bail by allowing FaceTime calls. But the social worker we were given 3 days after he was arrested was from Zimbabwe, the same country. He worked with my father-in-law and he knew him. He said to my mum, I know this social worker, I'm going to get away with this. So I tried to get this worker changed and they said no. And I thought, well, being as though he's working with the police, I'm doing a police interview, my daughter's doing a statement, they can't really hide anything.
Mm-hmm.
But they did.
They did. And so they didn't take it into account that it's a conflict of interest having somebody on your case that was friends with? Okay.
No, I've written multiple complaints. MPs, Governor Ombudsman, HCPC, none of them will listen. They've just said it's a racial attack from myself.
Oh, okay. So you were then labelled a racist, even though you had children with this man. Okay. So how did you then end up losing custody of the children? What were the events that led up to them being taken away from their mother?
I think the social service report just said that the dad tapped the children on the head. It didn't mention anything else. It didn't mention the guns. It didn't mention the hardness it was, the mental abuse they were getting, the other abuse. It didn't mention. So they took that into account. Then Kafkas then, when they did their report, and I said it was wrong, they didn't look into it. And it just said that I was alienating the children and they've got no reason to not want to see their dad.
Okay.
And they even manipulated what the children said. My daughter said, you know, this worker was very manipulative. She didn't listen to her. She just shut her down. Whenever she wanted to speak, she just said, I don't want to know what your dad did. I'm not interested. So,
Okay. So,
and then it's just a knock-on effect then. All the reports there, none of the reports in the court proceedings say what he'd actually done. None of them mention the guns. None of them mention the physical abuse, anything. Even with the police disclosures, none of them wanted to document it.
and did he have a lawful, was it, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? A gun license. Did he have a lawful license for his
He did,
gun?
yes, and it was revoked twice. It was taken off him twice, but he keeps getting it back. And even when you've got domestic abuse, you're not meant to be able to have a license.
No, yeah. So
and even the guns he did have, you didn't need a license for, but he overpowered them and he made his own bullets that expand on impact. So they were very, very dangerous.
So
the police didn't want to investigate.
He was constructing his own illegal ammo for these. So that was never raised as a cause for concern for him to be around the children.
No, and he shot my neighbour's house after an argument and their car, and they're too scared to actually say it was. You know, they lived over the road from him, but it was a threat to them to stay away.
Right.
And the judge just said, "Oh, well, you know, he couldn't have done that. It must have been someone else."
Okay, so
but my daughter witnessed it.
And they just didn't take her into account.
No.
So did he try and alienate you from your family, from your parents and if you have siblings, your siblings? Were you kept away from...
More friends, yeah. Yeah, more friends. Or if my parents did come around, he would come down and glare at me so I didn't say anything.
Okay.
He rarely let me say anything.
Okay, so there was no,
He isolated lots of friends.
Okay. So what date did the courts rule that you were to lose your children?
It's probably March this year.
March this year.
So only recently. I think what happened was when eventually social services, they weren't taking anything into account, and they wanted the children to see their father unsupervised. And I kind of put my foot down and said, look, you know, you're not investigating what he's doing now. You know, he's actually played a very clever game and he's alienating himself. So what he was doing at supervised contact, he would be priming the children with what to say. My son with autism has echolalia, so he parrot talks. So he would prime him with what he said on FaceTime. Like he would say to his dad, "Daddy, why did you hit me on the head?" And my ex would say, "No, I didn't do that. It was a hug. Your mum's told you to say that." So then when, and I would hang up on him when this happened. I'd be like, no, you're not doing this to children. Give him a warning. If you say this again, I will hang up. And he would do it again to get me to hang up, to play into this alienation. So then to supervised contact, my son would say, "Why did you hit me on the head?" But he would then give the answer which his dad would prep him with. But, "Oh no, it was a hug, wasn't it? And mummy's told me to say that." Because he's repeating what he wants his dad to say. It's the autism.
Yeah, okay. So
and
he was
contact report.
Was your ex specifically targeting that child because he was easier to manipulate because of his learning difficulties? Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, he really did know sort of what he was doing.
I've got this all recorded actually, and the judge didn't want to hear. I've got it all on voice recordings of everything that was said, and then it'd be a knock-on effect then with what's happened at the supervised contact, because that's what would be written down.
Yeah.
So in reports, it looked like I was a nightmare. Actually, they hadn't took into account what was being said on FaceTime that week.
Yes. Okay. And you had all of the evidence.
And then he would say to them, yeah, the judge just said, "I don't want to hear any of your evidence." She says, "I get to decide if I hear your evidence, and I don't want to hear it. It's not relevant to the case." But then he would be saying, you know, he'd take the children, play hide and seek. So then he would be clever. And then, of course, I'd be running around and then they can't listen to him. And then he'd say, like, "Your mum's naughty. I'm going to make sure I get you. And your mum's going to die one day. I'll make sure your mum's dead." So then the children would then be pushed away. And then they would only come back and tell me a couple of days later this would come out of them because they'd be upset. And obviously it wouldn't be reported. So he made one child, especially the 8-year-old, really scared of him. And now what they're doing, they're locking this boy in a room with him, with his abuser, his dad. to get him to accept him. They've been told, they're being brainwashed at the minute to say that I've made everything up. Their dad loved me. I've just been vindictive against him. The dad's done nothing wrong to the children.
Even though you
And
have
they're locking
all of
him
this,
now in.
even though you have all of this
Yeah.
documented history of abuse towards you from him,
Yeah.
and none of it was taken
And even
into
the police
account.
reports say I'm in a high risk. He's controlling, he's doing this, he's brainwashing the children. It's all in the police reports.
Right.
And he's stalking the house, he's scaring the children by driving past. And when the police have said don't drive past the house, he still carried on. He said, no, she's not going to stop me. I don't care if she's getting scared of the children. I'm carrying on. It's all in there.
Okay, so
it kind of proves.
you mentioned before that he, if you were going to get his children taken away, then he was going to make sure that you didn't have them either, so none of you could see them.
Yeah.
Is that the case now, or are the children in his care solely, or is he just getting supervised visits?
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the moment, I've got messages from him to say this is what he was going to do. He would get the children taken off me or in care. And he's achieved that. They're in foster care at the moment. One is with my mum, but they're stopping her from seeing her siblings because they're saying she's alienating, because she's very clever and she remembers what's happened. And she's very articulate.
Okay.
She's very feisty.
So
So
a little
they're
lion
silencing
cub.
her. She is.
Okay.
She's very switched on.
Okay.
So she can't see her siblings. I can't speak to her or any of them.
And
But the
obviously
three are in
there's-
foster care, and they've been neglected in foster care. They haven't been given food. I've got recordings to say, they're not being given food, they're not being given drink. My son, the 8-year-old, was called abusive by the foster mother carer. I've got recordings of that as well.
And
And my daughter said, well, why are you calling him abusive? They're going to think that word come from my mum, and it has come from my mum. It's come from foster mum.
yeah, so have they placed your son, the one with the learning difficulties, to your knowledge, have they placed him with somebody, or is he in the care of people that are equipped to deal with his autism?
No. The foster carers they're in now have only ever had elderly teenagers.
Okay, and never
And they've
anybody
never
with
had young
LD?
ones. No.
Okay. So going forward from March, then you had your trial in March, and then obviously the judge had made his decision. What was your first thought when you entered that courtroom? Did you for 1 second expect the result that you got, or were you pretty sure that you were?
I had investigated things a little bit, and I knew. He said even before the court started. I mean, I supervised him to begin with, because after he was arrested, I thought, well, I want the children to see, and I did put myself in danger, but I went to a public place to supervise him.
Right.
Because I thought I'll try, and he said he'd get better again. But he slowly alienated himself, and he knew even before court. He said, "You're alienating the children. I'm going to make sure I get full custody." So he knew what he was doing.
Right.
Exactly what he was doing.
So
I think
you
the
knew
problem
that there was a good possibility that he was going to do what he said.
He's very, very manipulative. I think the problem is I went to Spain 2019. I fled with the children because they weren't listening.
Mm-hmm.
I fled for 10 months to Spain, and we were here 10 months. And they changed completely, the children. They were in a Spanish school. They were learning the language. They had lots of friends. The courts did order me to come back, and I said, well, no, I'm not safe. The children aren't safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it did come to court in Spain. And Spain said no return if it's to the father.
Okay.
And now we've got back to England. I was promised a fact finding because I had a 6-day fact finding. On the first day, they sacked my solicitor. So I had a 6-day fact finding with no barrister, no solicitor. They've got rid of 3 of my solicitors on my case.
Okay.
And my daughter's now her solicitor.
So I actually had seen on your social media that your daughter was denied a solicitor, or that they changed it. So she had her own legal representation, separate from yours. Yeah.
Separate from Kafka. When she got back from Spain, they gave her a solicitor to do a AB interview, achieving best evidence. So she had 5 DVDs where she talked about the abuse.
Okay.
And then after this fact finding, they said, oh, now she hasn't got the mental capacity anymore to have a solicitor. So they took the solicitor off the case. So now she's back with a Kafka's guardian again.
Okay, so that obviously there was no consent from her to do that, or
No.
from you. That was something that was decided within the courts. Right. Okay, so
But the barrister and the solicitor didn't work for the fact finding. They didn't ask any questions. They didn't cross-examine anybody. They just sat there for the 6 days.
Okay, so you the whole time feel like from start to finish the trials were completely sided against you.
Completely.
Yeah.
All the reports have been manipulated, twisted. Everything that I've said has been taken out of content. We've had one good psychologist, to be honest, and he said there's no way the children should see him unsupervised. The children are scared of him. They haven't been coached. They're recalling their own memories. But they went against that. The court didn't like that.
Okay.
So then when we got back from Spain, they ordered a different psychologist. So this psychologist is working for the local authority, but she's not even a psychologist. When I've investigated her, she's not even a psychologist. She's trained. She's pretending to be a sister. She's not even who she says she is.
Okay. All right. So
it's just a copy and paste job.
How much influence do you feel like, was he your husband? Were you married? Yeah. So your ex-husband. Just wanted to get that right. So how much influence do you feel that your ex-husband personally had towards the courts manipulating, or do you think that it was kind of just 2 different sides, but both of them were against you? Or do you feel like that there was a connection there between him and that he was working with them to get this result?
A bit of both. He knew how the system worked, so he's played their game, played a very clever game.
Right.
So, but now they're definitely working together, definitely.
Okay.
Especially with social services.
Okay, so why have you ended up in Spain? What's taken you back out of the UK?
Well, I was tipped off, actually. I was told that they could either section me mental health. So if I did want to get my story out there, they'd be like, no, she's mental. Okay. And after the fact finding, I had the social worker come round and he spent 3 hours with me. And I said, look, you need to see this extra evidence I've got, the voice recordings, the videos, what I wasn't allowed to submit in court. And he watched them and he was shocked. And he said, I understand it now. I can see he's highly manipulative. He's very dangerous. I can see what he's done. I said, well, you need to tell the judge. And he said, well, it's too far in proceedings now. We can't go back against what we've done. And after that evidence, I was told by someone else, this happened to them. And what happened, they got a court order and they seized all their evidence. The police come in and just ransacked the house, stole all their evidence.
Okay.
So I guarded my evidence. I got on a flight and I came back to Spain because I thought if I can't see my kids, I need to be somewhere I'm happy, somewhere I've got support.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be half a mile from my ex, which was down the road.
That's
so I didn't feel safe.
Understandable. And even after this decision was made, and he'd got what he wanted, did he still continue with the intimidation tactics towards you? Was he kind of rubbing it in at all? Was there any incidences where he tried to?
Fact-finding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only time I've actually come across him was in the 6-day fact-finding. So I had no one there with me. I was on my own. One day, actually, I had a Mackenzie friend come with me the day that he gave evidence. But he was smirking and, he was loving it. And that's the only time. And apart from that, he's tried to play it good.
Okay.
But then he's manipulating. Now he's manipulating teachers. So my eldest child, who refuses to see him because she knows, but she's been told it was all made up. She's had a letter from the judge written to say, no, your mum's manipulative, your mum's done this, none of this has happened to you. Which, of course, is horrible to be told.
Yeah.
nothing's happened.
Well,
It's just,
yeah,
and for a
for a
child,
child to have, you know, been through some form of abuse and then to be told that they fabricated it in their head, that's just, it's absolutely disgusting.
traumatising.
That is
Yeah.
traumatising.
And he's working with the teachers now. He's got teachers to harm her. So the teachers are being horrible to her on purpose because they're friends with him. You know, there's been 2 teachers recently that have been his friends that have looked at her funny, and then, you know, she's quite feisty. So she will.
Okay. So she can, you know, stick up for herself. But what an adult intimidating a child, what kind of person do you have to be to go, do you know what, yeah, I'll participate in that? And to be a teacher, you work day in, day out with children, and you are participating in horrible, evil mind games. It just completely blows my mind that this stuff goes on. But like I said, you're not the first person that this has happened to, and you probably won't be the last. And I've seen, you know, cases like yours, like Sam Baldwin, where, you know, there has been the involvement of other adults that have taken part in all of the alienation and the abuse, because it's emotional torment for your children.
And she's getting it from school. The teacher, the head of the year, has said, well, the judge has said there's nothing, you know, your mum's lying. We have to go along with the judge and believe that you've never been abused, and, you know, you're making it all up. And of course, she goes mad. Bless her. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
But they've now said to her, you know, if you don't go to school full time, because she's struggling. I mean, I can't speak to her, so I can only speak to my mum with what's going on. If she doesn't go full time, they're going to send her to a children's home.
Okay.
And the father wanted her to go into a children's home.
Okay. And how often does he get to physically see them?
At the moment, he's seeing them supervised. I'm not sure how often he's seeing them now. But I know, like this morning I've heard, you know, he's selling my house. So my house is going to someone else without me knowing. But someone else is moving in, so he can move out of the area because people know what he's like in the area, ready to have the children for the 6 weeks holiday. So the children aren't going to have any teachers, any familiarity. They're going to be thrown in with him, so nobody will see the trauma and what's happening. They always choose to do things during the holidays, so we can't see what's happening.
Okay.
So my 8-year-old son, he was moved out of the foster home, finished. A judge ordered him to move away, so he would accept his dad. The psychologist said, best thing is move him out, don't let him see his mum for 5 weeks to get him to accept his dad. I mean, that didn't work. But
and was there any eligible family members that would have been able to, instead of the children ending up in foster care, did you have any eligible family members, a mum, a sister?
Yeah, my mum.
Yeah, so she could have cared for your children, and they bypassed that option.
What they did when I went to Spain, my ex applied for a non-molestation order against my mum and dad and for myself. So I was out the country, but he had applied for a non-molestation order.
Okay.
And the judge gave it to him on a lie, because my dad said to me, he was trying to help me with the house. And he said, well, I know you've been to the local shop to buy some beers. And on that, a judge gave my mum and dad a non-molestation order. So they couldn't go half a mile from their house. It stopped them seeing their friends. Stopped them, my dad getting his treatment for cancer. Stopped him getting his medicine. And, it caused my dad a stroke. And unfortunately he died last year. But that was an order from the judge.
Sorry. That
it shouldn't have happened. Your judge shouldn't have done this order. It was punishment for me because I'd escaped the country.
Okay.
The next time, and I never got to contest that order.
Because how much?
But it broke my dad's heart.
Yeah, I can imagine. How much involvement did your mum and dad have on the lead up to your children being taken away? Was your ex like kind of targeting them on the lead up, or was it just when you fled the country that he decided to drag your mum and dad into it?
He's been in their garden. Yeah, we know he's been in their garden. He's like let the caravan tires down. He's left beer bottles. We know he drinks in the garden to say, "Look, I've been
Oh, I've
here."
been here.
Little subtle things like that. But of course, if you said to the police, I'd be like, "Well, that you've got no evidence, or you're just not believed."
Okay.
But he'd be harassing them. He's set like alarms on their phone, so they've had alarms going on, and we just know it's him. We just know his games.
Yeah.
But my mum and dad had involvement with the children every day. My mum would take them to tennis, or she'd take them to guides, or
And
she would see her grandchildren
are they
every day.
now? They're now not able to see their grandchildren either. Is that the case?
No,
or are they?
my mum's with my eldest, so they're together. But my mum's now not allowed to see the youngest three,
Okay.
unless my mum can accept that no abuse happened. She accepts the fact finding.
Okay.
And obviously, he's killed my dad as well, her husband.
Yes.
And my mum witnessed a lot of the abuse. Until she accepts, and she won't be able to see the children unless she sees them with him. I've said.
Okay. Which obviously I can imagine she really doesn't want to be anywhere near him. Wow.
No, he's not safe. Mentally as well, he's not safe. He's dangerous.
Yeah. And obviously
So
with knowing as well the guns and everything that he has, you can imagine it's a very scary situation for your mum to be in, having having custody of your eldest daughter. She probably feels under threat.
She does, because he's got it in from my daughter as well, unfortunately. He knows how clever this girl is, and he's done everything to try and harm her over the years.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
sad.
she's a danger as well.
Okay.
So if she ends up in a children's home, it would just be catastrophic, really.
Yeah. And what's your plans moving forward? Is there any way, have you figured out a way that could potentially resolve this situation? Is there something that you can work towards to get justice?
I think so. I think the only way to fight is international. I think the English court system is too corrupt, and you're never going to succeed. They've got it so in for me. It's just they're never going to accept what they've done is wrong. Mm-hmm. And there's some ladies in Spain that I found similar situation. They've took it internationally, and they've actually said to Spain, "Look, you've done wrong," and they've actually won their cases back.
Okay.
So that's something I'm trying to look for. But the problem is, in my case, they've got rid of so many solicitors and barristers.
Yeah.
And I think they really want to fight, and they're like, "This is really bad. We want to take it all the way." And then they get scared. They get coerced, or they get punished, or something, and then they back off.
Do you feel like the courts could potentially be paying them off? Or
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what happened in the fact finding. Right. Because this barrister was willing to, fight it all the way. She was like, "This is just horrific with what's gone on." And then she just changed. One day she just changed, and then I was like, "Oh, I don't know what's gone on." And then they sacked the solicitor then. So that was all set up.
It must be like so difficult for you to put your trust into somebody now, especially if they come forward to help you. You just must be, your walls must just be like completely up when it comes to legal representation now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think the only way of fighting is finding an international solicitor, an international barrister, probably someone in Spain or somewhere different that can find it. Because Spain did say no return if it's to the father, and England have gone against that Hague order.
Right.
So they shouldn't have today.
Right. Okay. So there is hope then for you and your children. How can we as viewers viewing your story now, that viewing a story that's touched our hearts, how can we help you to achieve this?
I think it's awareness, isn't it? People don't understand. People assume that I must have done something wrong, or they must have something on me, and that he's done nothing wrong. And it's just not the case. People are very naive to how family court works. I think they think it's like criminal court, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can argue and say, well, actually, I've got the evidence here, and bring up the evidence. But they don't allow you. A judge can do what they want,
So
really,
they
can't they? And they
literally can
haven't
just
got
have the right just to completely ignore all evidence and just take somebody's word
and be
for something.
biased. Yeah, and they're allowed to be biased. They're allowed to not read any pre-literature. So they're allowed to believe one stories over the others. Like, I've had some horrific things the judge said. You know, the judge said, well, he's allowed to rape me. He admitted to raping me. He said, well, he's allowed to do that anyway because you were married. So I'm not listening to that. And I was like, oh. I just sat there gobsmacked. And that was a female judge.
That was a female judge.
Mm.
That's really disgusted me.
Yeah.
Really,
I think
really
I sat
bad.
there for 6 days, just shocked, absolutely shocked. And they're like, you've harmed your children by running to say, you know, you've harmed them. I was like, but they weren't harmed. We laughed the whole way there. We sang karaoke for 2 days. I was driving.
Yeah.
And I went to a place they knew. We'd already gone on holiday to. We knew people here, the Spanish.
Yeah.
And for the boy with autism, I knew I could have gone to Northern Cyprus and been protected.
Mm-hmm.
But the boy with autism wouldn't have settled there.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's always felt like here is his second home.
Yeah. Because obviously when there's autism involved, the change of routine and you know, that's quite a big and scary thing for them. So I can imagine him being put into foster care with people that he doesn't really know. Extremely difficult for him.
Yeah.
Especially when,
and I've got the video. Yeah, my daughter sent me lots of videos of the trauma and the distress he's in, and saying, you know, I want to be with my mom, I want to be back in Spain, you know, why isn't my dad in prison? You know, my dad should be in prison for what he's done. And my daughter was promised when she got back to Spain, they would take her to the police station to make a statement. Mm-hmm. And they just kept promising her. They're like, oh no, we can't now. The judge has to decide if it goes to criminal court.
Okay. Okay.
Banned from talking to the police. She's phoned the police a few times and said, look, this is bad. I need this sorting out. And she's been blocked from speaking to them.
Wow. And does your ex-husband still try and get in contact with you, even though you're out of the country and he knows that the kids are out of your care? Is he still trying to contact you out there?
Not that they.
No.
He's trying to be good.
Okay.
He will do, I think. When the court's probably finished, he will do.
Okay. All right. Well, Helen.
But he's commented on one of my videos, actually, that I put on.
So he is watching.
And he did comment on one of my videos.
He's
yes.
watching
Within 10 hours of me starting on Facebook, I had a comment from him. Okay. So he's obviously stalking me.
Yeah. And can that not be? Could that not be used against him?
I don't know, possibly. I've also had my iPad hacked again within the last couple of months.
Okay.
I've got solid proof of that being hacked.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just a case of just gathering as much evidence as possible and getting somebody trustworthy to take on your case.
The police just say, well, it's in family court, so we're not interested.
So they feel like, it's already being dealt with. We don't need to intervene.
Yeah. He's already got a caution for hacking my devices. He's hacked my dad's iCloud as well. But the police wouldn't touch that. They just said, no, it's fine. You know, they just log it down, but they don't take it further. Mm. So it's in all the police disclosures, but they just won't investigate, or they won't do a statement. Even for the coercive control, you know, there's so much evidence there of it. Like him hacking my devices, controlling, you know, who I saw. There's lots of online abuse, you know, we would post, and I've got screenshots.
Right.
You know, friends that witness things.
Okay, and none of it was taken into account. And were you allowed witnesses at your trial?
Yeah, I had my mum, and I had a godparent of the one with autism who saw him shooting a cat out the window.
Okay.
And killing a cat. He saw some physical abuse to the children. Mm-hmm. But the judge just said, I don't believe you.
So
I mean, that's upset them.
there's absolutely no point in even taking the witnesses to court then, because the judge just completely disregarded
No.
everything that was said.
That's it. And I had to cross-examine them, which was quite strange. And my ex had my aunt and uncle as a witness. He'd coerced them.
Okay.
And they don't even know the children. It was only to get my online post screenshots from when I went to Spain about the corruption of family courts. They only wanted that into proceedings.
Okay, so then they carried out some corruption. You called out the corruption, and then that was then used against you again.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So do you have is there any future proceedings that are arranged, or was that
I don't know,
the
final
say?
hearing, to be honest. Yeah, there hasn't still been the final hearing.
Okay.
But I mean, it's difficult because they want to order things on me, like contempt of court for speaking out. So at the minute, I haven't got access to my emails, so I don't know what's gone on, because it opens me up. And at the moment, I'm protected in Spain.
Yeah. And you, for the most part, you're happy there. Obviously, considering what's happened, you're a lot happier there than you are here.
Yeah. The only thing keeping me going really is the people I've got here.
Oh, that's amazing. It's amazing. And all of your friends back here, are you still in contact with all of your friends and everything back here? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're a lot. It's hard for them because they've seen it going on all the time, and some of them witness the abuse and they feel guilty for not doing something sooner or helping me.
Yeah.
But then also, if they would have reported it, they would have felt guilty at the situation we're in now, because they would have been the one who reported it. So,
Okay. Yeah, it's a
tough
difficult
situation, isn't it?
It is a difficult situation. Okay, so, well, what I'm going to do is try and get as much awareness around your case as possible, and try and get you the online help and support that you need to keep you going, and to also raise awareness around the family court and help people to understand the corruption, because I just think that people don't realise that how much it goes on. They don't realise the prevalence of it, and they think that the justice system is there to be the justice system. Well, if you do right and you do wrong, then you'll be treated that way. But they need to really understand that that's not the way that it is, and it can lead to the most stressful and life-changing situations, but
It's
even
just
though you're innocent.
It's a multi-million-pound industry that just abuses victims and children, just profit, or
because
to
the
get
children
to
are
care.
vulnerable and easy targets. Yeah. Okay, Helen, I'm so sorry that you have had to endure these nightmares, and I really hope that you get your justice, get the justice that you deserve, and your children get the justice that they deserve, and they end up in a safe and happy environment. Like I said, I'm going to do everything I can to raise awareness around your case and gain you a little bit of support to see you through. But if there's anything...
If there's any barristers that can help, or anyone that can take it on, because everybody's scared.
Yeah, if there's anybody that comes across this, that is somebody or knows somebody that can help Helen, even advice, anything, please reach out to her. I'll have her Instagram handle posted in the description so that you can contact her, or you can contact her through me, and I will be able to get you in touch with her as well. But if there's anybody that can help, please, there's four children at stake here, and
three of them are in danger with him.
3 of them are in danger, and one of them's got fairly severe learning difficulties, this is a next level this
he's
is
not going
next
to
level
handle them at
trauma.
all.
Yeah, this is next level trauma for somebody in especially his situation. And I mean, for the rest of your children, without having the learning difficulties on top, it's traumatic for them as well. So if
They're
anybody,
hard.
if
It's really
anybody
hard together.
can help, please reach out to us. Please share this video. Please help Helen with giving her your support and showing her just some love and support, and say, you know, we're backing you. And if there's anything that you'd like to finish on, a closing statement, then you have the floor.
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. It's just, I just want it. People need to understand what, you know, the government know it's going on, and they've got no intention of fixing the family court stuff. That, you know, it needs awareness of what's going on. People need to fight for our children, the children's future, because this is going on, and they're allowing it to happen. So, I don't know, but yeah, anyone that can help.
Yeah, it
Try
would
and
be
get
very
justice.
very appreciated if anybody is available to even offer some words of advice. Helen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me about this, and please stay in touch with me. I want to help support you through the rest of your journey, and please take care of yourself. I'm sending you and your children lots of prayers and lots of love and lots of healing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, honey.
Okay, bye.